Zoran has many, many groupies. Zoran Mandami. One of them is a woman who is getting a lot of attention for being well, I guess to be impolite, I think she's crazy. And she has informed the Democrat Party that they need to get on board with assassination culture, that the leaders of the Democrat Party need to say publicly, hey, we need to unalive all sorts of Republicans and Republican leaders. And if they don't do that, Jennifer Welch has said, they're going to come for you. So she's putting the Democrat Party on notice. We are the pro-assassination party, and if you don't stand with that, we're going to come for you. Lately, she said something about the American culture. This was after Mondami won in New York. Now, this is a fascinating thing, by the way, his winning. You know, in those ballots where they rigged the ballots because the disgusting Andrew Cuomo was way over on the right side of that, but Zoran Mondami had 2 squares. How are they voting? How are they counting the 2 squares? He had 2 squares side by side. You could vote twice for him. Do you think that there's a possibility that they counted 2 votes as 2 votes? Like if you said Zoran, yeah, no, I mean it, Zoran, and you voted twice on the same ballot, do you think there's a tiny little chance they counted that as 2 votes for Zoran Mondami? That's sort of an interesting question, isn't it? Jennifer Welch was at the after party, and they were aglow. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you knew this. At the Democratic Socialists Party, this is an Islamist communist here to destroy the country. Do you know what they had there? Cash bar. Think through this again. He's a communist who was charging people money for drinks, and he's an Islamist who was having people take free alcohol. Here's Jennifer Welch.
Americans have no culture except for multiculturalism.
Well said.
And we need to teach people how to embrace that. These crusty white people need to learn how to embrace it.
So it's hard to hear, and we'll clean up the audio to the degree we can. Americans have no culture except for multiculturalism. These crusty white people need to learn how to embrace it. Wow, it's almost like the white lady standing between the 3 brown men was trying to virtue her signal her way into being a brown man in and of herself when all she needs to say is, I'm a brown man. But on this topic of culture, can we say that America has no culture but multiculturalism? Let's look at this in a second. America has a creative culture for sure, and it happens that Hollywood, for not great reasons, has become the leading exporter of American culture. And what the rest of the world sees as our culture isn't that helpful for us. The rest of the world sees sex and violence and drugs, and did I say sex? And they see divorce. They see Christians portrayed as idiots and tyrannical idiots and authoritarian idiots. And they see a dangerous America where women are locked away in rooms and forced to have babies when they don't want to have babies. Hollywood's been that way. Angel Studios is slowly changing this. First of all, some shots across the bow, like the Chosen TV series with which they're connected. And then, of course, you had the Jim Caviezel movie that revealed the harms of child trafficking. That was a shot across the bow. That wasn't supposed to make it, and it did. Now there's Disciples in the Moonlight. This is a prophetic film. And the people who created, I think they thought they were writing about an America far off in the future, but it's closer than people want to think. The plot line here is some disciples are smuggling Bibles in America, where the government has banned the actual Bible and instead has distributed the Truth Bible. If you think that's impossible, think about the 1619 Project. Remember that? Fictional take on American history distributed through high schools and universities and put in cartoon form for kids who were taught that America was actually founded in 1619 to be a home for slaves. That was it. Founded for that. See, they can do that with American history. They can do that with the Bible. In fact, there's a whole bunch of fake Bibles floating around. There are Bibles that change God's gender to gender neutral. There's Bibles that pretend he's a woman. There's Bibles that pretend God had no view on sexuality, that Jesus had no view on human marriage. So in this movie, Disciples in the Moonlight, you get an opportunity to see what it would look like to have to smuggle Bibles and ask yourself, would you be brave enough to do it? Go watch Angels in the Moonlight. It's angel.com/Herman, angel.com/Herman, and also become an Angel Guild member. When you do that, you're helping Angel fight back against Hollywood, and we can start exporting some great things about our culture. And yes, we have one, including our Christianity. It's angel.com/Herman. When the founding fathers had the opportunity to build a nation from ground up, they had an opportunity to encourage a culture from ground up. So they started with a very, very important change. In America, we are governed at our consent. The governed give consent to be governed. The governed can withdraw consent to be governed. Thomas Jefferson made that very clear in the Declaration of Independence. We were withdrawing our consent to be governed. Now, how is it that we could do that? Because we're made by God in his image. We're given certain inalienable rights, such as the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. The Crown had stomped on these rights, specifically the right to liberty, pursuit of happiness. So Thomas Jefferson reasoned, along with others, based upon their belief in God, that since God gave us life, in the garden he gave us liberty. Had he not given us liberty, just made us little machines, we'd still be in the garden, but we wouldn't be fully human. We wouldn't have free choice. And pursuit of happiness. That extended into some other things in American culture, things that the government was not allowed to alter, such as our right to speak our minds, to practice our religious faith openly. Not to pray in tiny little rooms, but to practice it openly, even if it offends people. The right to keep and bear arms. Why? Because after the right to free speech, the right to keep and bear arms was second most important to them, because it allowed us to defend our lives and the result of pursuing happiness, which is often personal property. Owning property was part of the culture of America, that you could proceed to a point where everybody could become a property owner through free exchange of services and goods and money. That is a culture. It was decidedly a culture that was not run by a theocracy. It was decidedly a culture that was not run by royalty. It was decidedly a culture that refused to become royalty. When George Washington was offered the opportunity to become king, he said, we're not going to have kings. That's not the way it's going to work here. America is far from perfect, far from it. And yet to say it doesn't have culture is a lie. The reason that people wanted to emigrate to the United States was a result of our culture, which resulted in a government that for a long time protected the unalienable rights that God gave us. In other words, it was a culture built upon what God gave us and no government can take away. The further we move from that design, the sicker the United States of America gets, and people still want to come here because they remember the good old days. And then came the shift. And the culture in America is now this. If you can get here, you can stay here. And we'll pay you to stay here, even if you have no concern for our culture, or want to destroy it like Ilhan Omar does, or, in this case, Zoran Mandami.